Well, we've been talking a little bit about doing apologetics on the university, and apologetics is giving reasons for the what and the why of what you believe. Having done this for several years now, I would say there's several objections. I'm just going to narrow them down to a few. The first issue is the God question. Why are there so many agnostics? Why do people become skeptical, or how do we know there's a God? And so a lot of times with people, when they're talking about God, and they might say to me, well, I don't know if there's a God. I can't know if there's a God. I don't know how to know if there's a God. I just don't think we can know. Those kinds of things you hear a lot. I generally bring it back to the question of, well, how should God show us he's real? What should God do to show us he is based in reality? And in many cases, a lot of students just don't know how to think about the God question. Now, they may respond to that, like, how do we know God is real? They may say, well, we should have scientific evidence. There should be some sort of scientific proof that shows that God is real. Well, if you look at the definition of science, science is a study of the natural and the material world. So right away, I go back to them and I ask, well, what do you mean by God? Because is God a physical, material, or a natural being? How would science be able to show me that God exists? Well, I would say that we can look at cause and effect relationships in the world. We can look at causation and see there are traces of God in the natural world, but to see God as a material object or to make him into a material thing or physical thing just begs the question as to what the person means by God. So a lot of times people don't know how to approach the existence of God. Some people will believe in a God if there's an experience they have, they want that experience, but God is under no obligation to give them that experience if they're not going to follow him. Or some people want pragmatic reasons. They want to know how God works in their lives. Does he make a difference? A lot of people believe in certain faiths because he makes a difference in their lives. Some people believe in God because of existential reasons. He answers the questions such as hope, meaning, purpose, things like that. So it just depends on the person, but a lot of times people don't know how to think about God. I would say the second common objection is the issue of religious pluralism. They sometimes bring up, well, how can you say that your way is the only way, or that Jesus is the only way to God? It seems very narrow and exclusivistic. Well, if we go over the different faiths in the world and talk about the different claims, they all have contradictory truth claims. They're all saying different things. If the Quran says Jesus never died and rose from the dead, which is true, that's what the Quran says, Jesus never died, and the Bible says he did die and rise from the dead, they both can't be true. It's just common sense and just using logic, right? So a lot of times I just walk them through the different truth claims and show them that they all can't be true. And then probably the third most common challenge I have is relevance. Sometimes people don't see the relevance of the God question. They assume if they just stay busy, or they have a career, or they have a boyfriend or girlfriend, or they just stay super busy, that the God question will go away and they don't need to deal with it. And my response to them is that if God exists, and if Jesus rose from the dead, if that's true, it's going to be true tomorrow, it's going to be true the next day, it's going to be true 20 years from now, 20 days from now, 20,000 years from now. So staying busy, or whether you're happy or not happy, has no bearing on whether God exists or not. So those are some of the things I run into. There's certainly many more, but that's what I run into quite a bit.